Good morning. Um, kind of slacked off the last 2 days. Well, I said I wasn't gonna do it on Sunday. Just gonna go to church, try to make it to Sunday school. And yesterday, I didn't do the daily reading, so I do apologize for that. We're still on becoming a vessel that God can use, and it's still week one. Today is going to be day 4 of the book. A recap from the last one was day 3. Gideon, you're the one. The recap was God fully knows you and your circumstances you face. God would only call you to complete a job He knows you can handle by His power. You must go in the strength you have, even if you don't think it's enough. Don't expect people to support you when you step out in obedience to God. Remember who sends you. Today is day 4, the least likely job candidate. Several years ago, God placed the following help wanted ad in a nationwide newspaper. Powerful employee looking for a person with a lot of shabazz to share the gospel with beautiful young Jewish girls. All applicants welcome. Any age, gender, race may qualify. Must be willing to offend Jewish sensibilities. Contact God via prayer and interest in a tough assignment. Okay, so God really didn't take out a help wanted ad. But if He did, that's how it would have read. You see, at the time, a young Jewish girl named Susan was in desperate circumstances. Susan tells her story. My fiance had gotten a baseball scholarship to a leading university, so I decided to study there too. The first year was a blur of ditching class, toga parties, and wild and crazy dorm life. Not much school education, but life education of a sort. I had always been a spiritual person. I had gone to Hebrew school and I prayed a lot, but there was no spiritual life. I can remember in high school looking at books of witchcraft in the school library. I even took a course in Eastern religion and learned transcending meditations. Then I met an intriguing man who told me the most incredible story of his life after death and other amazing spiritual experiences. It was all very compelling. Then he gave me a book called Rebirthing in a New Age and started inviting me to meetings at $1,000,000 homes overlooking the ocean. They had these hot tub parties. There were where you'll go through hypnosis and get reborn in the bathtub. But later they said they did LSD too. All the while I was surrounded by really neat Christians like the assistant baseball coach and other ball players and his father. They really demonstrated love to me. I later found out that they were praying for me all along, but no one ever told me about Jesus or confronted me with his claims to be the Jewish Messiah. I guess they didn't want to offend me. I was on the verge of attending a new age group when I got a last chapter of the Rebirthing book. It talked about Jesus, but only as a great prophet and an enlightener teacher. It didn't matter. Something about this Jesus just leaped out at me from the page. It was incredible because as a Jew, Jesus was someone I was just never taught about. Around this time, Susan broke up. Well, that was Susan's story. So around this time, Susan broke up with her boyfriend, the man everyone had expected her to marry for as long as she could remember. The decision was painful to make. The news even harder to hear. Her boyfriend began stalking her. She locked herself in her dorm room and was afraid to even answer the phone. Guilt and confusion overcame her, and she wandered to the very brink of nervous breakdown. I didn't eat or sleep for nearly a week. I just cried day and night. Finally, I decided to get a Bible. I've never seen one and had no idea where to get one. I went to the regular bookstore. Sure enough, there it was. Then I found that Trinity Broadcasting Network, TBN, I know that one. And I kept Christian TV going 24 hours a day. I couldn't believe I was discovering. The first half of the Bible was filled with truths I already believed. Here were the prophets and old familiar voices. Then I started reading about the promised Messiah. When I stumbled onto Isaiah 53, I just couldn't believe it. I knew Jesus was the one we'd been waiting for, but wait, why would my family, what would my family say? How could I hurt them like this? I cried out to God and pleaded with him to speak to me. I prayed, God, I don't want to turn my back on the faith you've given me. I don't want to be misled. Please, please help me. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting in the middle of the floor in my bathrobe, wrapped in my comforter. The only light came from the flickering TV. There was a woman singing on TV. She suddenly pointed at the camera and said, "There, a young girl out there. You're sitting in the pitch black in the middle of the night. I know it's day here, but our show is taped. It's night where you're at. You're sitting in the living room in your bathrobe wrapped in a comforter. You are calling out to God, and He has heard your prayer, sweetheart. He will never leave you. It's going to be all right. God has heard you." The woman on the screen was Tammy Baker. At this moment, Susan accepted Christ. I felt like somebody was just pouring buckets of cool, refreshing water over my entire body, from my head down to my feet, and it just kept coming. It snapped out of despair and depression. I could feel the cleansing. I just knew, she recalled. Later, I heard nothing but criticism of Tammy Baker on PTL Club. This is part 1. I will be back with part 2.